Hey there.
I feel like you and I could just sit in silence. Don't you think? You have such an attunement to the quiet, which is really a big prayer for me this year of 2025. And I'm really grateful for that. So thank you for that synchronicity because I can feel that in your field so profound and deep. And it's such a refreshing thing for me.
Oh, wow. Wow, beautiful. You're the first to ever tell me that. I haven't heard that before.
I I don't know if a lot of people, you know, I don't know. I could get into past lives. I feel like I used to be a monk.
Oh
Can
my
you hear
God.
me okay? Yeah, I'm wearing a
Yeah, I hear you
fancy
perfectly. I'm
microphone.
listening.
Okay, good.
I'm listening. Yeah.
Just wanted to double check. Yeah, I feel like I used to be a monk in another, maybe many times another, a monk, Tibetan monk. I have a really strong connection to that. And I have a lot of planets in the 12th house, which is like the spiritual mountaintop kind of thing. And my relationship with social media and Instagram has been tumultuous because I've always done this comparison of wanting myself to be like, look like the top down hierarchy, all that nonsense
Mm,
that we're taught. And, but it's not, it works for some people and some people are doing it beautifully. So it's not all nonsense, but there is a lot of noise
mm,
in that. And for me personally, like this last year, 2024 was like a disidentification
mm,
of seeing myself on the same track as all these other people who may be doing similar things that I do in my work,
mm.
but because of this attunement to silence and spaciousness. And that's what, like, I remember watching all my friends in 2015, 10 years ago. And I still had a lot of like the coaching that I do about confidence. Like, I still had a lot of things to work through, witch wound, persecution, not wanting to be seen, all these things. But everybody was like building email lists in 2014 and doing all these things that are in my age group. I think we're like 10 years apart. And, uh, and I was instructed to be quiet.
Mm.
I was instructed to like sit on the beach and meditate. Like I still have the piece of paper on my altar. It says, "Get quiet, goddess. Go outside in the silence." I don't know what else it says. Probably says like drink water, meditate, but like my instructions were like to be quiet and to be spacious and to be still. And it's been a great foundation, but I can still be. The world is not that way.
Okay. Okay. And do you feel like, Michelle, this year, 2025 will be a continuation of that foundation when it comes to the silence?
Yeah, it's a revisiting. So I've been saying, Soshi is here, my girl, one of my student slash priestess sister friends who has been in my field since I like started my business, basically not like since I started my business, but like for the last few years for sure. And I often speak about a circling back. So I don't know how much you're into this, Jerome, but like, okay, so a lot of my work has to do with pattern recognition.
Mm,
And what I see is the waves of ascension. And for those of you who are like 10 years younger than me, I wonder what your 2012, 2011 looked like. But I feel like I was a pack of souls who, like, during that time, that there was like a huge transition, 2010, 2011, it like things started falling apart in a certain way.
mm,
And then 2012, there was like this beautiful reshaping that happened. There was a first chapter from 2015. Now, I want to like configure this. So I have two thoughts here.
mm,
The first thought is what I'm seeing is a repetition. So like 2024 and 2014, 2013 and 2023, there's like a loop
mm,
of time where I'm seeing repatternings and I see patterns that I learned in 2015 when I actually became a sound healer
mm,
and really like this like native energy that's like taken into my body had really like came in. I feel like a piece of my higher self really downloaded there. And then there was a shift. 2016 was like a transition. 2017, 2018. 18 was like kind of a chapter two. And then 2018 to 2020, 2020 is like this wild card year. And then another transition. I call these like the waves of ascension and I track them.
mm,
Now, the last couple days I've been attuning to this other frequency around since, and this is my own political views, and I know everybody doesn't agree with me, but since the whole Donald Trump misogynistic, old patriarchal like imprint in consciousness that like kind of hijacked and took over, but also we were like Oh, like the light workers in like 2011, 2012, we had this like cosmic dance desire to like, I remember Desert Dwellers, and like they had these songs about like, you know, Homo Celestis, like we are ascending to the stars, we are like calling back our warrior energy, like we are in the light, you know. And then there was like this big skew that happened like politically and also on the world stage. And I feel like a timeline kind of split. I think that we had thought that we were going in a different direction, but like humanity made a choice to go in a more like kind of warlike, aggressive kind of and that we're playing out the like remnants of that. And
Mm,
now we've chosen again to like return to that. It's like we're not really comfortable. And I've seen this so much
mm.
that like human beings like really are not actually, they're actually more suspicious of compassion
Oh,
and love
oh.
than I had ever known. And I think in my very altruistic and very innocent ego and identity and person, it's been really challenging for me as a wisdom keeper and a teacher and a healer to try to bestow and bring spirituality, because what's actually trendy in the space is like, and it's true because people hijack it for like commercial reasons, you know, where people are like, no, 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 la, 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 and like there's not really doing anything, but it's like that's the game, you know, they're like pretending that they have access to things.
Mm, mm.
And then there's like real shamanic work, which does sound like nanu nanu la la la, you know what I mean? But it's like you actually are like in conference with like deep spiritual the beings that are not physical, you know, and it's the amount of reverence and majesty and secrecy and subtlety. And I just heard one of my teachers, and then I'll be done with this little train. Yesterday, I listened to this wisdom keeper Kaipacha that I know from other lifetimes. He's an astrologer, and his ego is quite aggressive in different ways because I've met him many times in person. But I love he really does listen and is tapped into certain things. And he talked about the new earth building. And
Mm.
he talked about a conjunction between Neptune and Saturn, or Neptune and Jupiter, I can't remember, that's happening this month, maybe the 25th.
Okay.
And he said, this is the start of the new earth, but
Mm.
it's happening in the most subtle realms of spirit. It's almost invisible. So, so circling back to where we started this, which was the silence and my undoing personally from trying to achieve anything or look like a thing, has been an attunement to what my true consciousness holds, which is like a transmission of spaciousness and silence, which really is the only thing that I believe heals anyone.
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness, Michelle. This is amazing. This is amazing. My goodness. Oh man. Just what you've already transmitted, like this transmission already is just opening, so many layers, just so many levels, just so many lenses of perception. And I want to thank you just for your authentic transmission, your authentic expression, and just giving it in that reflection in this direction, to have your connection is awesome, is awesome. So, my goodness, when you're talking about these dates and times, Michelle, it's lovely that you're like weaving back, you're like weaving the threads of all these connections, you're connecting the dots, these dates and time, almost like, the constellation and the vibration of these things interweaving together. And it's awesome just to witness you doing this in real time. It's really it's really cool because you're like, yeah, like I don't know about you, back in 2012, and in 2012 I got arrested that year, so
Oh,
it definitely
snap.
was,
Wake up call, baby.
it was a tumultuous time. It was a wake up call for me. And in 2015, that's when I was graduating college. I still had no idea who I was or where I was going in life, but how things were growing in life or how things were flowing in life. But my goodness, Michelle, how do you track the waves of ascension? You called them waves of ascension.
Yeah.
What is your process? Like, how do you track
You
these?
have to look at it in hindsight usually, you know. Hindsight is 2020 when it comes to pattern recognition. But also you can also sense things collectively going on. Like in 2016, like I remember, I think, you know, one of my friends who's now one of my spirit guides, he was a friend of mine on the planet for like a year or two. His name is Phoenix.
Mm,
And he was such a role model to me because he was a few years older than I was when we met. We met in 2012, and he's a star brother, like legit. And he being a man and being, I don't know, he was gay and fabulous, and like he just like had this like aura, and he was Filipino, so he was like, he looked like a little Buddha, you know? And so he was like teaching qigong and like looking like a little Buddha. And he said something that could be sound as arrogant, but it was so truthful and authentic coming from him, and it made me so happy. So I'm going to share that. And it's like, and it resonated with me. And he said, the collective things, the things that happen to the collective patterns, like for example, like a solstice or an equinox, we can bring it into micro, right? We just had the winter solstice. We met actually partying.
At
That
the
was so
solstice
cool. I
event by
have
the
to go
tree.
through my camera because we met doing like, for everybody to know, we met doing like a disco line. I was holding space far away on this like gangster DJ booth, and they were weaving lights in the trees and we were playing music, and I was directing everybody, and like I was like, Soul Train, let's do it. And like everybody like went like this to the camera. That's a memory I have to go back through. But these eclipses, these full moons, these astrological dates, sometimes people like me who are attuned to the collective, or just people who have psychic gifts, feel those things. And this is what Phoenix said. He said, I feel the change before the actual event. And it's true. Like we can feel these things happen before they happen to everyone else. That's another thing about being a space holder, is that like you kind of get a sense or an imprint of where we're going a little bit before it happens. That was how it happened more in the past, because now things are a little bit more squirrely. I think since the pandemic, the collective frequencies and energies have been a little bit like, to be honest with you, and I don't want to get conspiracy as the crows caw in the background, but like I feel like there's a lot, the way I see the astral plane is a lot how I see the planet Earth, where there's many different tribes, many different, and everybody thinks their way is the right way. So it's like, once I was holding a mushroom ceremony where I was singing and doing shamanic work while the mushroom ceremony was happening. And I had my higher self, who now I see as my higher self. Then it just seemed like a bossy kind of medicine woman. And she was like, get out of the way, let me sing the song. You know what I mean? And I was like, man, medicine women be bossy, you know? Like that was like my inner child. That was like my thought inside myself. But then I saw it as like, we all have our own traditions and we all have our own ways that we believe ceremonies should be run. I think it's the same with the astral. I believe in Syrians and star seeds and entities and energies. And I think everything thinks they're of the light the most, just like we see on Instagram, right? All the influencers, like I'm the one with the thing and the thing. And we're all like competing for that. And I also believe like God might be a mystery even to the guides. God might be a mystery even to the angels. Imagine like the highest beings are just like, we don't know, we're on assignment, we're doing the best that we can with like the little bit that we know, but like the mystery is really the mystery for all of us. But everybody's trying with their own agenda to get like seen and met and like hook into humans and like move us. And so I feel like there's a lot of different interference and a lot of different relationships, and all we can do is attune to the frequencies that we know in our soul we are connected to of the highest. But I see really good people lately, people that I love and trust and would think that they're on my thing, and I can hear and see and perceive, just like I saw in you, like what you're attuned to in consciousness, and I can see that they're hooked into other things. And that might be because their karma, their ego, their agreements, their attachments, their dance in this lifetime, they're learning different lessons. So I don't judge it as bad, but I'm discerning enough to understand like what is mine versus what is theirs. And it's the same thing when we're talking about like that quietude and like, what's my calling in this time? Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's a long answer for what you asked.
No, no worries. Thank you. No, I just enjoy, the way that you, like I said, the way that you're transmitting this and you're channeling. You're
Yeah,
really channeling
I'm a
like all of
channeler.
this information. You're channeling this frequency vibration, like this frequency this medicine, the frequency medicine that you're channeling right now with your throat chakra. Like it just reminds me of just the vocal alchemy that I know that you're just deeply entrenched in vocal alchemy, vocal like power, you know, just
Mhm.
power, because I can only imagine what it takes to be a container and be a vessel for that energy, you know, for the higher, you know, energy that is really just flowing through you and going to you, just to allow it to be a conduit for that energy and to just effortlessly express the way that you're doing. I mean, it's amazing to witness right now, like I'm doing right now. So that's why I was saying earlier, it was like, whoa, you know, this is happening now, you know, this is happening. So I have so many questions I mean, I already had so many questions, but the more you talk, I have more questions.
That makes
So
me so happy.
I don't know if
Can I just say something before you get that, and
okay.
how
Okay.
deeply meaningful it is for me to receive that from you, because I don't want to like air out my stuff, but like I had two very distinct. On Christmas, I was invited to a party and I triggered somebody during an authentic relating
Mhm.
game. And then the next night, one of my dear friends kind of had like a being attached to him and kind of freaked out on me as well. And it happens to me a lot in social groups. But this is something that I'm currently transmuting, is that not everyone reacts the same way to the amount of voltage and light
Right.
that the way that you just were like, hey, you're transmitting a whole bunch of really beautiful light, celebration, dolphins, yay. Like that was like the currency of what you gave back. And like what I was talking about before, how people can really be suspicious of compassion,
Mm,
their own relationship to unconditional love.
mm,
That's what I'm saying, is like it's very fascinating for me, you know, not to be a downer, but like the distinction of how to bring this medicine to the world and who is ready to receive it. And my guides have been clearing me of ego hardcore all the
mm.
time, so that the way that I transmit, and it's deeper and deeper levels of this, is transparent.
Okay.
Because the less that I make it about myself as a person, even though I have an inner child and want validation and want to be seen and thought is beautiful and all the things that you said, um, the thing that I'm learning to hold is, how do I make it about what I serve versus my own identity, so that the transmission that comes through me is the deepest authentic power and will be a transmission that heals others in the highest way. And that is a long journey that I am on. And I feel like that's a gift, even though it's taken a lot of patience and time and aloneness for me
Mm,
to root and anchor that in, and a lot of sorrow and grief and longing. And but you know, that's a part of people's journeys when they open their hearts, that they have to access deep grief or soul grief or understanding things. And then through those initiations, I've been able to come to a steadiness and a maturity in myself that has been very challenging and humbling, and but also given me a really spacious heart.
mm.
And been one of my deepest frustrations has been that that is not seen by so many people. So I really appreciate your honoring, because it's a rare person who can who does that. It's like rare, and it makes me so happy
Absolutely.
to receive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My pleasure. My pleasure. You know, Michelle, you also remind me of one of my good friends. And I was traveling with her at one time, and we were going to different places and different spaces to see different faces. In these locations, there was times where she would stop me, and we were in nature, Michelle. She would say, "Oh, look, there's a frog, like, or there's a toad, and it's reminding us now, you know,
Mhm.
that we need to remove toxicity or stay away from toxicity." And then she would see an eagle fly overhead, and she would say, "Oh, that's reminding us to have a, a higher perspective, you know, to have a bird's eye view. Like, look, that's the eagle. That's reminding us now." And then something else would happen in nature, and she would just call it and call it. And there was a lesson for everything, from the lizard to a lion. Like anything had a lesson attached to it.
Yeah.
So earlier, Michelle, you know, you were saying, you know, not to get conspiracy, as the crows are cawing in the distance. You said, as the crows are cawing, what does it mean when the crows are cawing? Because I hear the crows cawing a lot, but I don't know what that means. Like, what does that mean?
I listen to the birds more than anything.
Okay.
I believe that I am bird tribe. I believe I come from like these galactic bird
Okay.
beings, and I'm seeing one go like doo-doo-doo-doo, like dance. And my friend Phoenix like likes to come as a cardinal and dance around for me, and the eagle is deep medicine for me. Um, I believe that the birds around me, so I can hear the way that the tone. So a big part of how I do my coaching
Mhm.
practice, and I listen to frequency. Even in the subtlety of the silence has frequency. My guides trained me to understand their voice through silence.
Mm.
It's like a huge thing that we can unpack. Birds making sounds, the tonality of the bird is my guides speaking to me, I feel a lot of the time. And I can hear, I do insight timer lives, and I do them, I put them on my channel
Mhm.
here as well. And so that's like a webinar where I'm doing a sound healing journey, but it's bigger than a sound healing journey because it's also a ceremony, and I call in the guides and the astral beings and the helpers of the people who are receiving me on Insight Timer. And so it's a way for me to do collective energy work
Mhm.
through singing songs and prayers, and I'll hear the way the birds, it's I believe that our guides and our ancestors and the guardians and the loved ones who have crossed over and like the guardian angels of the people, they um, they come and they want us to, like, the highest frequency is celebration. So
Mhm.
if we can get, and sometimes we have to go through heartbreak and like cry and do grief, so we can do all of that in the span of an hour and a half that I do these transmissions. It's like, we're like singing and we're like opening the heart, and then there's like letting that maybe sorrow move through us, or crunchy energy from just whatever we're going through collectively, tumultuous. And or sometimes it's an open energy, and there's like birds singing, and I can hear the encouragement
Mhm.
of spirit being like, yeah, like open more, be bigger, like come into us. And then that helps me in the little, I don't call myself a shaman, but I feel like I do shamanic
Mm.
work. And as a channel and a transmitter and like a little baby medicine woman, like I hear the birds, I hear the wind blow, I sing, and like the birds fly overhead. It's an attunement and a recognition that I am in concert with the natural world and spirit. And that's what a medicine woman is. That's what a witch is. That's what a teacher is, a wise woman, a priestess. And so the more that I call to these energies, and they sing through me, then I usually talk about my lives and my channeling like a relationship to spirit. And that's another piece I didn't get to speak actually, which was that you being appreciative and asking me allows me to be in this frequency that I do not get to return to individually,
Mm.
because the way that I channel is allowing me to open to spirit and open to those who are before me. And then I get to be this like the star card in the tarot, like one hand above and one hand below, and then I'm a conduit and a bridge for physical matter and spirit to flow through.
Mhm.
And it doesn't happen unless there's a receptive audience. And the other thing that's fascinating that I learned, that doesn't happen, is that uh, if there's ego in the space, when I'm in a physical place, or in Austin, or if I'm doing a retreat, or if I'm doing whatever, my wings don't get to expand as big.
Mm.
It really depends on who the leader in the space is to the amount my guides show off, basically. Because they don't care about it's not about my accolades or looking like a thing. It's about if the environment is a conducive place where the people are ripe and safe, and like they come with really beautiful, meaningful hearts, then like the trees, like everything, it's amazing to see what happens. And I got a real beautiful visual, like I did like 10 ceremonies in the month of October, and it was like me being taught about that through each space, and it was fascinating to witness. Like my transmission is dependent on those who are before me.
Wow. Wow. My goodness. So many things to unpack right there. First of all, just, thank you for illustrating that. And thank you for illustrating this with your body. You know, it just helps the communication vibration as you're relaying the information. During this conversation, you're using your body in these intricate ways and these flowing ways. And I love how you also talked about, you said there was a star card. That kind of parallels with you know, the hand up and the hand below, one hand high and one hand low. We do this position when we do qigong. So that's another one of those positions to, you know, draw that heavenly chi and the earthly chi at the same time.
Also Buddhist.
So
Buddhist Tara, the Buddhist, the Tara does that as well, where she holds like a lotus flower,
ah,
and then she has her, I think it might be right hand lotus flower, left hand out, and it's for the
okay.
people. So it's a very, or like even Baphomet has that, like where he's like rock, like he's like up in the thing and then down. So it's very as above, so below, you know.
Right.
Um,
Right, the law of correspondence, you know, as above, so below, as within, so without. So I want to make sure that I heard you clearly, and I received that clearly when you said that you hear the birds, that often it's like a confirmation of your attunement. Is that what you said? Like they're letting you know you're attuned, you're on the right path, you're okay.
yeah, sometimes I mean I get smacked around a lot by my guides too, not like in a negative way or a sexy way, but like so like I'll give you an example. Like I hear it as an adjustment.
Mm,
So if I ever diva out, like say I'm singing in a ceremony and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my voice is so pretty. Like if I have a moment of that, like I'll feel like a thunk, you know what I mean? Like your grandma hit you upside the head. You know what I mean? Like it's just a very like it's not about that, you know. And if I'm gonna use a sexual word, like if I'm getting off
mm,
on like the power, so like if the voltage is coming through me and I'll be like, you know, like sometimes like if I'm directed, like if I just got a vision of like when I've done a sound healing in the space
mhm,
and I heard I was in it was the same mushroom ceremony, I heard somebody like working with something and like being uncomfortable, and I'm a Scorpio, so like I want to like get in there and like get in with that and be like dig around and stuff, but like my guides were like, yo, like let that person have their own experience, chill. That's like the so like I have had to learn, I mean this is like 101 for healers too, is like
mm,
boundaries, you know, like sometimes everyone's on their own journey. It's not for you to heal everyone. And just because you can meddle in somebody's auric field does not mean that you should. So like you gotta like hold your like you gotta like really listen. And this is maturity, you know, and less about ego. You don't make it about you. You actually like pull back and like listen, like what serves this
mm,
person. Like the other day I was in my friend's energy field and he was attached to something and I was like, I'm just gonna leave that there. That's his own contract with whatever that
mhm,
is, and like I'm gonna like clear and go a different route.
mhm,
And like, you know, maybe 15 years ago, I would have been like, we have to do something, and like call him out and just be like, the brother needs
mm,
to go on his own journey
mhm.
with that.
Yeah, no, I get you. I understand. I understand. And you know, as you were speaking, Michelle, you might have noticed that I had a reaction when you mentioned that you're a Scorpio, you know? And it's interesting, I should have known just because of the way that, you know, we gelled, like when I approached you at the tree and you were dancing and you were waving the fan and you were just like moving your body and it was very graceful and very, very passionate, very sensual energy. You know, Scorpios, I know, just in that sacral center, that creative center, just that really just energetic center. So let me ask you, can you guess what my zodiac sign is, what my sun is?
Are you a Scorpio
Of
too?
course, of course, of course, of course. So I have a question for you, and I haven't asked this to anybody. I don't always get the opportunity because, you know, I don't always know that I'm just, you know, talking to a Scorpio here. So, you know, it takes one to know one, but also there is some sort of stigma when it comes to us Scorpios. I really want to hear your opinion about this because there have been times where I'm cautious to mention to people that I am a Scorpio because they run for the hills. There was one time I was driving for Lyft and I had a passenger that I was dropping off, and at the very end of of me dropping her off, she asked me, "What's your zodiac sign?" And I asked, I told her to guess, and she said, "Wait a minute, don't tell me, don't tell me you're a Scorpio." I was like, "Yeah." She bolted out of the
Oh,
car.
wow.
She opened the door and like ran out. Like once I got to her stop, she ran out. Like she almost forgot her jewelry. I had to give her back her jewelry. Like she was out so fast, like Speedy Gonzalez. Like
Oh my God, I
Roadrunner.
haven't heard Speedy Gonzalez in
She
a minute.
was gone. She was gone. So please, like, explain to me, what is it about Scorpios that really just give us that bad rap?
People don't want to be seen when they have something to hide, ego, They, everybody, not me, unfortunately. I mean, I have like a little girl giddy side that I think I mask with sometimes, but I also feel like that's really actually my inner child that wants to be met. But I don't have a mask and I don't have a
Mm.
filter. But that's actually due to my Sagittarius placements because I'm just like, what? Which just seems what you get. I'm from New York and like that's just it. But for Scorpio, Scorpio can be connected to, because we talked about totems earlier, owl wisdom. Owls see in the dark.
Mm.
Owl is we fly silently. That's also a shamanic piece. It's like they say that people who are healers and shamans have owl as totem. This also has been seen, same with the crow, right? Or the raven.
Mm.
I mean, we live in a patriarchal society, so we demonize the dark feminine, things we don't understand, the mystery, right? So same to Scorpio. Sexuality is seen as taboo in our society. When the Scorpio knows, and that's what you were commenting on with my sensuality, is that God and sex is one.
Yeah.
It's a sacred art. These temple arts are sacred. And you can hear my like warrior turn on when I get that. Like this is something I have deep, deep, deep conviction about.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe, and I talk about it a lot in my work. I talk about it less in my maturation because one of my most famous transmissions I've ever done has been about releasing the witch wound. And it's got like 5,000 five-star reviews on Insight Timer. It's like really a thing that hits people. In my rebelliousness, the witch wound is like after I created it kind of became a trending topic and a lot of people used it and it's like I kind of, and this is to my detriment as a businesswoman, when things become commercial-ish, like they take on a different tone, a vibe that's like not the actual transmission, but you're doing it to like make it a thing because like people identify with it, but I can feel the response I get back, right? So it's like if I'm putting it out there and then it's like a superficial tone, that my inner Scorpio nature is like, okay, that's not it. Like maybe that resonates, but it doesn't feel good. For example, here's another example of that. If I put up a picture on Instagram and I'm angry or righteous in any way, like I'm not taking it anymore, all I get in response is yes, queen, blah, blah, blah. And like that would give me more views and likes and like be more resonant. And it feels not good in my nervous system because it feels like posturing and it feels like a way that people choose to relate with each other that I don't. Because what does a Scorpio want? Depth. A Scorpio wants depth, honesty. A Scorpio wants, you know, you gave her back her jewelry, right? A Scorpio is like a well of emotion and for the courageous, right, who are not afraid of being seen, the amount of God and intimacy that can be accessed and felt and touched is tantric and transcendent. All we want to do is offer. All we want to do is be seen in that. All we want to do is receive that exquisite divine nature of God. Like it is, nothing tastes more precious to us. People in this day and age, and ironically, more in our spiritual community than not, have a very limited threshold for true intimacy because the way that they present themselves is a facade. I am, I wear my beat. I'm a bro. I do breath work, I wear my beads, I'm like conscious and shit, you know, like that's like Austin, right? I'm like, man, how come there's all these hot guys running around with their shirts off? I was at like this giant party at $1 million house when I first moved here. And I was like, I'm not attracted to any of these dudes. And like, then I saw a meme that that guy, that Words for Vibrations guy made, and he was like, have you seen me? Austin bro, last seen in Tulum doing breath work. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's like conscious bro, you know? And it's like a facade. And what we're looking for is like holy depth. Where is that? It's not so much. And it's sad because we get missed a lot because people are fearful of being seen. They don't want your owl eyes on them. If they're trying to look like a XYZ, that's triggering for them. So they'd rather cast you out, witch wound again, and tell you that you're wrong, when really what you're doing is you're bringing up something in them that's fearful of like actually that they've rejected, or that they are trying to look like something else and they know that you see through them. And if you see too much, you get pushed away. And I've had that. I had it at the and I had it happen at the event we were at, actually. It was like, oh, I'm triggering this person and I can't do anything
Wow.
about it. Interesting. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for just breaking that down, and like it's very resonant, you know, very reminiscent for sure for myself as well. Like the fear of being seen. You know, there's been so many times, Michelle, I can't even tell you that, yeah, like there has been a fear of being seen, like others, we even when I'm just in their presence, just looking in their eyes, like some people they can't look in your eyes. They cannot look, you know, it's like they don't want to be seen. And they do say that it's the windows to the soul, so it's almost like they're trying to hide, you know, trying to hide that from penetrating or, you know, permeating, you know, like they don't want to allow that vulnerability, like that level of vulnerability. It's almost like, yeah, no, I'm not ready for that. You know, there's something I don't want you to see, even though there's no way you could know, but maybe you could, you know, like maybe you could pierce through the veil of the or the mask or whatever that I'm portraying right now. Maybe you'll actually see who I am instead of who I pretend to be. So this is awesome, you know, just talking about this topic.
Maybe you'll see who I am instead of who I pretend to be.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that the threshold, where I was talking about this threshold of intimacy,
Hmm.
I work with people. I work with a lot of people, and I even started taking clients for Mind Bloom because I was curious about like the ketamine clinic. So I'm working with people who have anxiety, like straight up.
Okay.
The amount of people in America, a land of freaking
Mm,
plenty, who do not love
mm,
themselves or have a good relationship with their inner self is vast.
mm.
It's vast. It's mind blowing, actually. So imagine these people who are pretending that they are XYZ spiritual leadership people, blah blah blah, and then underneath, how do they really feel about themselves?
Wow.
And if you and I have the power to hold a depth of authenticity that's like, yeah, maybe I have wounds, maybe I have this, maybe I have that baggage, but like I'm okay with like the what's in the cauldron for me. And then your presence around them when they haven't done that work is highly triggering. And it
Okay.
has nothing to do with us. We're a reflection of the depth of intimacy that they have not accessed in themselves.
That's,
And what's heartbreaking is being outcast from groups and dynamics, which that part I haven't quite figured out on my journey and I'm deeply working with,
mhm,
to know the discernment and distinction of what I have to, because they say everything's a mirror, right? So part of that is a yes. It's like, okay, so what do I have to like neutralize in my own field? Am I judging? Am I attacking the people who like haven't done that? Is there any judgment in me in order to get that? How do I become a clean enough slate so that no matter who's in my presence, they can feel like they're safe? Or is it something that I have to deeply distinguish that this is a part of my reflector spirit, like you talked about me as like a channel, like I'm a mental projector, so like
mhm.
that's my human design, is like I have access to this and I speak out through here and I'm open from the down. So that's also why I have to spend a lot of time alone, but being open from the down means that I reflect to people as a mirror back what's, so then they might just project onto me and be triggered. Is that something that I'm going to have to make peace with? It's something I've had to do for 40 years. Is that something I have to carry into the future? I don't know. You know, is that something I can transmute in myself and then it doesn't happen anymore? Possibly. I was
Mm.
just talking to my mentor about that yesterday. You know, like what, like he said that there's the other part of it is it could be a karmic walk in our astral identities, like Scorpio, Pisces, whatever we've incarnated into holds different keys and tones and textures. And there's a reason why we incarnated into that identity so that we can have these XYZ experiences that that archetype holds, because that's medicine for us. So maybe when that medicine completes its, you know, that karma is like, and then it's like less, you know. Also, I think just coming into old age, things change, you
Mm.
know.
Okay, okay. So there's so many levels, like so many dynamics, so many layers to this. There's not just like one and done. It's really multifaceted, multi-layered, multi-dimensional, you know, multi-dimensional for sure when you're talking about this. And you know, Michelle, you jogged my memory. You brought me down memory lane when you spoke about the owl that can see in the dark. You know, there's a poem. I remember this poem. Have you ever heard of the poem "The Wise Old Owl"? Okay, okay. I'm gonna tell you. So, all right, you ready? Okay, so a wise old owl sat in an oak. The more she saw, the less she spoke. The less she spoke, the more she heard. Why can't we be like that wise old bird? And the first time I heard that, it just made me contemplate. Like it really got me pensive. It really got me into just a meditation, like a meditative mood to understand, wow, there's so much more I can hear and so much more I can see if I allow myself to be free to be, just to be, you know, like just to be. So it's amazing, like what you're talking about with the witch wound and just being outcast, being ostracized, or being exiled or excommunicated, or just, you know, somebody wanting you to be over there. And then even having that, like when you said, whenever you get the righteous anger or sacred rage, you're saying that's almost like inauthentic to you. You say people kind of they rally with you. They want the sacred rage, they want the righteous anger, but you feel in your core that's inauthentic. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I feel like it's an easy, I think it's a superficial dance that we choose to do with each other. You know, there's so many of those, right? It's like, how are you? I'm good. You know, like there's just like languages. And so I just tracked that pattern on Instagram where it was like, I'm sick of this. And yeah, girl, this. You know what I mean? I'm just like, okay, like that's not like, you know, but there's also something that I'm personally working on, which is, I think, that as I mature, like I just got into my 40s, right? So as I am now in this new decade, it's like, okay, warrior queen, less little girl, want that little girl wanting to be met. I noticed that I have to change my tone because my innocence wants to be met, but that doesn't seem to land with people.
Okay.
They don't see it. They think it's weird or it's suspicious or whatever. So I have to be a little bit stronger. That part of my integrated masculine and feminine and my maturity people can trust. But the tone that can spin that, you know, and we can see this actually on Instagram. People connect with anger more than they connect with like or sex, like
Why
anything
is
else.
that? Why is
I don't
that?
know, but it's something that I've really, really paid attention to, especially with the wars, especially with the politics, especially with the triggering content. I did a really beautiful talk at Solar Punk Summit, and it was on the 8 wisdom codes and teachings of authentic
Mm.
power. And I spoke in my TED talk around how when I was initiated as a coach and I went to a like a beautiful program, it was beautiful, and the first thing that they tell you is like post divisive content
Mm.
because that's what gets attention and what is seen, and that's what I feel is inauthentic. Because as if you're a healer, I mean there are tons of marketers who are trained to be coaches, you know, they're good at marketing and then they went into coaching and etc. But I'm an owl, and I'm a medicine woman and a healer. And I don't believe in perpetuating things that are negative in the collective thing for personal gain. I think that's a very negative, that for me, that would be very bad karma. I don't feel like everybody who does that has to deal with the bad karma, because like when we don't know what we do, we're like judged at the space of where our consciousness is. But for me, I know better. So if I tried to do that, it would be like way not cool. And there are ways that I've seen myself like have to get unwind from wanting those, to do it the way that everybody else does it, you know, as opposed to this like, what is it to attune to subtlety and reflection and quietness. But even if as I get really soft and I talk about that, like I have to meet the people where they are, and that's a nuance and a dance. And so I don't want to perpetuate anger, and I can't quite give them my softness because they don't trust that. So how do I like very rationally give them a grounded, mature, boundaried anchor? That's something that I'm flirting with right now. This is like just coming into being as I'm working with it, of what is my new medicine space to serve the people so that I can meet them where they are, and that we can have a relationship, a symbiotic relationship.
Yes, yes, this is beautiful. This is beautiful, Michelle. You know, I have a side question right before my next question. I have a follow-up, but like I want to acknowledge the language patterns that you use effortlessly when you speak as well. They're very hypnotic, and it's powerful because you're utilizing your voice, like your throat chakra is activated, you know, is supremely activated. And as you are speaking, you will say things in the moment that's very hypnotic. Like if someone, you know, if I didn't know any better, I would say that you've done hypnotherapy. I don't know if you've done like hypnosis or gotten into it, but if I didn't know any better, you already have like the fundamentals naturally in your bones. It's in your bones because you'll say something, you'll quiet down and you'll be like, and as I'm speaking very softly, right?
Adorable.
Right? And
Yeah.
you're saying it as you're doing it, and it's almost like a pacing and leading. You're leading someone in the direction, and they have that connection because they see the reflection. You're letting them know what's
Yeah.
happening. Like this
Yeah.
is happening now. You
Yeah, that's
know?
how I do my healing work with people when I do my one-on-one.
That's
That's,
beautiful.
yeah, that's exactly the thing. But it also entrains, and then there's like the energy work piece,
Yeah.
because it like I can see like, okay, for example, I was just working with a client,
Uh,
and we're at the end of our 3 months, and I want her to continue so bad because we have like one little more chapter of energy to work on.
mm,
And so we were repatterning this huge program with like her teenage years and guilt and all these things. And I was like, I think I'm being guided to drum into your field. And then so I was like drumming to clear this giant thing that we had just moved. And I saw myself like, this is like a shamanic vision, like hit a rock.
mhm.
And I came back to the call and I was like, we just hit a rock, and this rock is identity and da da da. And I was telling her things, and those things were the same things that her father said. And I was like, okay. And so then I was like drumming and singing into that. So it's like moving that energy, and
Right,
a
right.
little bit of psychology, a little bit of energy work, a little bit of me like singing to the
Yeah.
cosmos. And yeah, that's how I do my
And it's
medicine.
natural. Like you're a natural. You're a natural.
Thanks.
You know? Like I don't know where you know that came from, where you learned it from, or like if you studied it, or if it just comes to you naturally. It must come to you
It's who
naturally because
I am as a
you,
being. It's
it's
who I am
just
as a
you're
being.
able to draw in like as I'm listening to you, right? As I'm listening to you, you're like drawing me in, and I'm wanting to know more. I'm wanting to learn more of this story. Like where does this connect, and how did that happen, and karma and compassion. Like speaking of karma and compassion,
Mm.
you know, how does knowing about karma, you know, knowing about the karmic patterns, the karmic cycles, the karma, how does knowing about that give you compassion for others? Like give you more compassion that you know about this karma?
Yeah, I mean, I would say more important than with others, it gives us compassion for ourselves. And the reason why I know about karma is because one of my teachers, his name is Ram Dass,
Mm.
which a lot of people know about because in the last 10 years, on social media, his presence grew quite significantly. But before that, when I was in my 20s, so my mom handed me Be Here Now, the book, when I was like 15 at Barnes& and Noble. And when I was in my 20s, I got to do Skype sessions with him personally he did like open heart talks, and they were after his stroke. And we would meet on Skype, and he would basically like talk to me and make fun of me, and it was awesome. And make fun of me in a good way. Like I have this thing on my about page on my website, oh, which is michellecoutinho.com, my name, for those of you who want to see it. But it's like he says to me, do you have a teacher? Like, and I'm like, I look at him like he's crazy, and I'm like, you're my teacher. And then he laughs so much he almost falls over, and he's like, well, you're doing pretty good for being self-taught. And I was like, oh my God. So anyway, he talks about he was a Jewish man who went to India and learned about Hinduism and Buddhism. And there's a lot of Jews who have that same journey, because Hinduism and Judaism have a lot in common in their like, and so if you go to a kirtan, like probably like half the room will be Jewish. It's very funny. It's like a hippie. It's like if you're a Jewish person and you turn into a hippie, you somehow end up at a kirtan. It's like a,
That's how that works.
it's a little path. So he's told me about these Hindu Vedic principles. Now, my soul, when I was talking about being a monk and a Tibetan and blah blah blah, for some reason, not for some reason, for what I believe to be reincarnation. I have a friend named Vic Shiv Dasani. So he's like uber Indian with a giant family, and he makes a joke like I'm more Indian than he is, because I have mantra and Sanskrit. Like the way that I understand the Vedas and the principles of Hinduism is like I've lived them in multiple lives. And so, the book Be Here Now outlines all of these beautiful Eastern philosophy principles. And in that, the bedrock of truth is that you are a soul. There's a piece of you that is the Atma. It is eternal. It is your consciousness that is attuned to the infinite, all that is, the Godhead. There's a spark. You're a little beam of light. And in that, then you have a light body, and your light body is made up of your mental and emotional body, which is your samskaras, meaning your aversions and attractions from lifetime to lifetime, and your higher consciousness and your wisdom. So your higher self, I believe, is a part of your soul that you have access to, like through the crown of your head, but not really has incarnated fully into this particular incarnation. Then you have an energetic body, your pranamaya kosha, which is your chakra system, and your physical body, which is your I can't remember, but it's food body. It's your physical, like actual body. Okay. And when these bodies are all in alignment, I say that's true alignment, which we get to through yogic practice, through singing, through breathwork, through dance, through song, through meditation, etc. The samskaras, the aversions and the attractions, are what I work with when I work with people one-on-one, because if you have an attachment or you are afraid of something, you have like these hooks, and when we pop them, you have more access to that higher self and wisdom consciousness and your soul to come through. And so for vocal empowerment work, right, people have a contraction because they may have experienced persecution in another lifetime, or was, a slave, or imprisoned, or beheaded. And these things leave imprints in the soul, and we have memories, and therefore we can only expand to a certain ratio of, besides that imprint, we'll like get nervous talking. We won't feel grounded. We'll have experienced trauma in this lifetime, not only past lifetimes, right? So abuse, physical abuse, conditioning, Christianity, dogma, different things that take us out of who we are as a soul. So depending on our incarnation, our trauma maps to our karma. It's like a perfect, and so does our astral identity of like the zodiac signs and all of those things, right? Or our totem animals, all of these pieces, they're all encompassed in our light body that travels with us from lifetime to lifetime. So if you think of yourself as a soul on a journey, then I can, and this is one of my gifts, hugest gifts, since I was a baby oracle card reader intuitive, I'm able to see people's astral identities and hear who they are as a soul, what they are working with. Like, for example, I love telling the story is like one of my clients was like a programmer, flat brimmed hat, like festival kid, software developer, Austin boy. And when I got him on like in front of in the Zoom call, I was like, I think you were a Shiva initiate at an Indian temple. And then he had all these like different sexual, we had to do a lot of like in a lot with his inner feminine, which was like very shut off, and a lot with his sexuality. And it was opposite. Like, so most men have a problem where they ejaculate too quickly. He couldn't ejaculate. And I was like, if you were a Brahm, like that would make sense for like this incarnation that I found. So it was like getting him to like actually be in his physical body was like challenging. Again, white kid, software developer, goes to festivals, and I'm like seeing him as like, oh, this other time you were like a priest or a caretaker, you know. And so it's like weaving these identities so that you can see yourself in your own predicament and the relationship that you had with your mother, and like all these little pieces, your childhood trauma, your past life karma, and is you transmute them, and then they become your wisdom, your dharma, your path. But it takes working with someone, I believe, to really like weave these pieces of you together, or it just takes your entire life. Like, that's the difference between people who work with me. Like, it's like a speed up of like things. Like, I went through 15 years of my journey and then figured out some things, and then now I can like deliver them to people in like a quicker way, and it's fascinating to watch.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, right. I mean, I'm sure it's fascinating to witness because it's even fascinating just to hear, you know, just to hear right here. Like as we are being here now, like we are listening and you are just glistening, you know, as we are listening. Seriously, seriously, Michelle. I love this because, you know, learning about your inspirations and motivations and even just your vocation, like what gives meaning, what gives fulfillment, what fills you up with life and for living with all this energy you're giving, you know. So my goodness, you know, there were so many things that you were saying that were kind of pinging off lights in my mind of, okay, wow, our past or even a past life trauma could be a current life karma. And I was like, wait a minute, what? So something that happened in a whole completely past life, you're saying that could even put a limitation on someone's vibration?
It echoes. They're echoes. They're residual echoes. If we haven't transmuted them. Okay,
Wow.
here's a whole nother gangster thread, if you're ready for it, is that we have initiations and portals, like say we go through transits with the time, like, so it's obviously like your natal Jupiter is conjunct like Mars now, right? So it's getting like your Jupiter's getting activated, whatever. You go through whatever transit that is. Or there's just a period of time, a window of time for you. It usually does correlate with something astrologically, where your past life, whatever that is, that you're being asked as a soul to heal. Or it can also be ancestral. I didn't even mention that piece, which is like the family that you incarnate into, like the ancient grandmothers, like their sorrow, you know, there's been genocides. I have Armenian heritage, the genocide, etc. Cleaning up energy that goes back in the timelines was a part of my soul contract.
Wow.
So therefore there's a time, say when I'm 27 years old, I'm remembering a lot of, or I'm either grieving a lot, or I'm going through different initiations that are reminding me of this matriarchal lineage that I come from. So then in order to heal that, whether it's in my past life personally, or it's an ancestral piece, there's a lot of lessons that come to me as a soul where I have the opportunity to choose differently, to take that energy and transmute it. In order to receive the gifts of the past life, a person, me, whoever, has to feel the pain usually of that, like the negative piece, and then make an empowering choice. And then through that, it's almost like they have a window through time to then receive the gifts of what the soul learned from that life, or unlock that ancient ancestral karmic piece, so that again more of the soul light and the universal love can be, you can have more freedom in this lifetime.
Right.
That's how healing works, in my humble awareness.
I love that. I love how you just bring it like you just bring it back like, that's how it works, in my humble awareness. I need to use that, I need to use that. That's a lovely line, in my humble awareness. I like that because, we usually hear opinion, but I like that awareness, this is not just like my humble opinion. No, 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 no. This is my humble awareness. Like I have an awareness here that you're seeing clearly, and just with that clear sight, like that clairvoyance that you're able to see, and just clear audience you're able to hear, and clear sentience you're able to feel, and clear cognizance you're able to know these things that are just flowing within you and growing within you. Thank you for talking about, you said Baba Ramdas. What would you say was your, I guess, one of the biggest lessons that he left you with? Like, what was one of the biggest lessons you got from Ram Dass?
I can say two.
Okay.
The last conversation that we had was, for me, I was like, I don't know if I was hormonal or what, but I couldn't surrender. And actually, oh man, three now. I've had three signs in I did a program called Surrender. It's a 6-month group. It's already written in 2021.
Okay.
And the last 3 days, shoot, man, I've been getting signs that I might do that. And oh my God, in March, it goes with the Wheel of the Year.
Mhm.
And when, I haven't thought about this in a minute, yo. Wow, thank you so much. This is a blessing for
Yeah.
me. Bro, for real, for real. All right, 2015 was my last Skype with Ram Dass,
Okay.
and it was right before my birthday.
Mhm.
I think I would have been 30, turning 33 or something. I was born in 83.
Okay.
I don't know, math, whatever. 32, I was probably turning, because the next year I was 33, and then that was the initiation, all the crazy.
30,
That was crazy.
33 is a big
Bro,
number. Big number. Yeah.
mine
Mhm.
fell down a mountain. It was crazy. Anyway, so when I was on the phone with Ram Dass, I was like, man, this Carl is going shitty, and I'm so sad, and I was so tight. I was so tight. My whole being was tight.
Right.
I was like, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I was PMSing or what was happening, but I was like, like the whole time. And I was so sad because I knew psychically that that was going to be my last time talking to him in person. I saw him in person in Hawaii in 2012. But I knew that that was going to be my last, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And I'm going to tell you a secret, just because I feel this is the most appropriate place. I don't say this a lot out loud to people. This is going to blow people's minds. So I'm going to say, I'm like presencing right now. This does not have to be your truth. You can take it or leave it. But homeboy said to me, he said, you think you make decisions. It's all the Divine Mother. She does everything. So we think as humans we have free will. We think we're like, I'm gonna launch this course, I'm gonna do the surrender I'm gonna do this, I'm making this choice. And I have seen that, man. Like, I went crazy for a little while when I was doing a lot of ayahuasca in the very beginning, where I was like, timelines. If I choose this, it goes that way. If I choose that, it goes this way. You know what I mean? I'm getting like, my gangster just got turned on. My little hippie gangster just entered the building. So I know that we do make choices. I don't know if we end up in different places, meaning I think the road to get to those choices might be either bumpy or high exalted. We can choose like the eagle path, or we can, that's what my mom always told me about being a Scorpio, by the way. She said, you can be a Scorpio and walk on the ground, or you can be an eagle. And I'm eagling it up. And then my guide is a phoenix, which is like the highest of the highest, transcendent.
Rise from the ashes.
We're doing it. We're doing
rise
it.
from the
Because that's
ashes,
why
like,
people, because there is that, like, there's a shadow side of all the signs, but the shadow side of Scorpio, because power, we deal with power, and that little balance between life and death, just that, just a little gateway of that. But to bring it back to Ram Dass, yeah, so I was tight. And so in the core message of that was surrender, surrender to allowing the infinite to move through you. Surrender, and that's what the program was about. But the way I taught the program is through the masculine and the feminine, maiden, mother, crone, father, stag, father, sage. divine masculine, divine feminine, the wheel of the year. It's like natural law in a bottle. And in when we attune to natural law, we're surrendering to allowing the infinite to work through us.
Yeah.
And I've already got this program written and the website and like materials and stuff like that. I haven't thought about that in a minute. And I've been meditating the last 2 days, like, what am I supposed to do for my business next? I'm just being quiet. And I think this is like a real sign to do that. So I'm going to do that. So thank you, brother, for that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say one more thing that I learned from Ram Dass, because it's the most, it's for me was the highest moment that I was when I was with him in person.
Okay.
And maybe it's just for me, but when I was with him in person, I was with him twice. We swam together. That was a whole nother, oh God, that's a whole nother lesson. Jesus, how much time do we have? If you want to,
We
I'll
have
say the
time.
second one.
We
I'll
have time.
I'll say the second one and then we can say the third if we're
Yeah.
meant to.
Go ahead,
Because
go
that was a
ahead.
whole nother, man, that was another beautiful teaching.
Go ahead.
All right, maybe I'll say that one because it's, all right. So it goes to other things that we said too. Okay, so I'm with Ram Dass. I have an appointment on Monday and Thursday. They don't know that I am the same person for the appointment, right?
Okay.
Monday, I go there and it's the in-person appointment. So I'm a Scorpio and I'm sticking out of the group like a weirdo because that's just what I do when I'm in a group, right? And everybody else is like, oh, Ram Dass, la-bi-dee, doo-bi-dee-dee. And they're all like, it's like chickens, like circling around him, like in this whole thing. And I'm just kind of like awkward and like on the side. We all go swimming. And I'm looking at this being like this whole thing. And I'm like, why would he, this beautiful being, have this weird ass cacophony around him? Then we go to one of those really long, like hotel tables with that where it was dinner and we're lunch and we're all eating. And again, noise. First time I'm meeting my teacher. I'm sad. I'm like, man, I don't know if nobody likes me in the group, of course, right? Scorpio codes, right? Nobody likes me. I'm sitting over here by myself. I go to the bathroom and I surrendered, actually, is what happened. I go to the bathroom. I look at myself in the mirror. I said, this is what it is. You'll meet him on Thursday. It'll be what it is. You chill, you give it up. It's fine. I walk back to the table. I'm going to call Ram Dass homeboy because we cool like that. Homeboy looks at me like that, like Hawkeye looks at me. Time slows down. It's literally like being in one of those movies like Inception where like everybody else, like that noise, like him and me become on the same plane of consciousness and everything gets quiet. Like my whole entire awareness expands. And I'm slowly walking back to my seat and he looks at me and I hear, now you've slowed down enough to know and understand where I am.
Whoa. Wait a minute. You said you hear. Where did you hear it? Where?
In my
It just
consciousness, my
came
knowing.
in? Whoa. So what did that tell you in that moment? Like, what was that? What did it tell you?
In the world, but not of it, like he's like all that stuff goes around you, that circles back to the beginning of our conversation with like the silence and the witness and all the things that I've learned from him is like that's the truth. I mean, the second piece now it feels less important, but I was crying in his arms like that Thursday, and it was like it was my heart about suffering in this world. I was just crying openly. My heart was crying. My face was crying, but my heart was crying. My heart was he was radiating love at me. I was crying openly about why is it like this, And he was just like, it is.
Wow. Is that just like just total acceptance? Like
That's his mantra. I am loving awareness. I am loving awareness. And I used to hate that in 2015 because I remember that's when he was like, starting to decline and like really like I think he died in like 2021 and on the winter solstice and I couldn't get it then because I was gripping, in my early 30s. I was so like, I'm gonna write a book and I'm gonna do this, blah blah blah, spiritual. Like it's really, and the universe is just shaving me down, like over these things. And it's so hard. It's so hard to surrender. I really feel like that's like a big thing that I'm here to learn in this lifetime is like how to hold humble power and like how to allow these forces that are greater than us to move through us. What's ironic is at the time the way that everybody else is doing power is completely like personality driven and top down, and like my road is opposite. And I think that's another Scorpio code. It's like having the courage to go against the grain and do what you know is true, whether everybody else is doing it or not.
That's it. That's it right there. You know, that's been one of my greatest lessons. And just thank you for that lesson of encouragement, empowerment, and just enlightenment. You know, you're enlightening us with these revelations and realizations, and just, you know, that has been one of my greatest lessons, Michelle, as well. Thank you so much for just giving that, because surrender, you know, the lesson of surrender, you know, it doesn't always feel safe to surrender. It doesn't always feel secure to surrender, but you can find even more in surrender, and you can explore in surrender and see what's in store in surrender, you know?
Word.
So thank you for this, because that's been one of my greatest lessons right now, is to learn how to just let go and allow things to flow. And I can only imagine, because earlier, you know, Michelle, you mentioned that you've communed with Mother Aya,
Yeah.
you know, a lot, you know, and I've never done ayahuasca. I've never communed with the mother. Can you talk about what level of surrender one might need when they are communing with ayahuasca? Like what level of surrender does somebody need for that process?
They say that that's actually like a huge, that's like actually the primary ingredient. That's like all you need is what I, like I worked with one shaman circle, and then that was a karmic thing. It was good for 5 years. And then it initiated me into kind of losing everything that I had been attached to,
Mm-hmm.
which Ram Dass actually says is a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
He says, if you're attached to a method, the method you pray, he said it's better that you pray that the method self-destructs, because you don't want to attach to the method. You want to be free.
Right.
So if you're a meditator and you need to meditate and you're, I gotta meditate before I'm whatever, then no. Right. So that's what happened to me. Legit. It was like this whole group. I got psychic. It was crazy. It was deep, dark. Then I started singing in ceremonies, and that was pretty cool. I did that for 2 years with this guy with like deep Tibetan codes. That was really nice for me. It was good awareness training to watch the room and watch myself. And that was kind of that humility of like really being understanding like how to weave song so that you're
Right.
selfless, transmission. That was really good for me.
Right.
At my last ceremony, I had 5 year break, and then I recently came back to the medicine again in early December, which I feel very precious about. I don't know if I'm going to talk too much about that ceremony because it just like really happened. But her lessons with me are really interesting because, well, I'll speak about just like the archetypes. Like one night was like real exaltation, seeing myself, who I am, who my true self is.
Mm-hmm.
Really needed that because that 5 year break was hard.
Mm.
I felt not I felt because of the way it ended. I was in Glastonbury in a priestess circle with 30 women, and I had a very, very aggressive voice in that ceremony, which I now know the person, and this is for all the people who, the people who are holding the space and the people that you are surrounded by will. What I learned was the ayahuasca is susceptible to frequency.
Mm.
So if the people's egos or whatever are not as clean, you will receive kind of a similar transmit, just like how you're saying you receive the transmission from me and my being and energy, etc. It's the same thing. The people who hold the space,
Mm.
the medicine is susceptible to. So you have to be very, if you're delicate like I am, you have to be very discerning with who you sit with, because that frequency, even if it's not like dark, it can still not be as sweet as you need, if that makes sense. And like I had like I had my messages come through in a really rough way. And in this past ceremony, it was told to me that that was because of who the container, that was that energy that was there.
Oh,
It wasn't really the ayahuasca, but I took it personally and been like, oh, she hates me. You know what I mean? It's not, it wasn't that, which I learned, but it took me 5 years to like hold that gap
mm.
and wait and then like come back. And now I came back in a way that was like really initiated by the divine. And
Right.
and still got my butt kicked at the last one, got humbled real bad, just like I did in that 5. It wasn't as mean, but same tone, was like, we're gonna smack you around, and like we're gonna smack you around for your good, because like that's what you're supposed to be learning in this lifetime.
Wow.
You bow your head, you respect. This is anyway, so that's all I can say about
Wow.
that.
Thank you just for saying that, you know, thank you just for saying that and for sharing that with us,
Yeah.
because, you know, one of the reasons why I asked you, Michelle, and I love the way that you describe things and you kind of just taking us down a journey, like when you're talking about your learnings and the things you've been discerning about your personal path. You know, one of my good friends, a good friend of mine, she did ayahuasca for the first time, and she said she would never do it again.
Oh
But
wow.
the reason why she said that was because, well, this was her reasoning. So she was in a very fasted state when
Okay.
she did it. She had been in a fasted state for a while, so she's used to not eating, you know, sometimes not eating or drinking, so sometimes just being dry
Is
fasting,
this
like just
the breatharian vibe? Because I saw that on your
yeah.
profile. You had like a
So
breatharian.
one of my friends who they do multiple days where they just have no food, no water, and they just kind of live in that awareness of, you know, complete freedom. She went into ayahuasca during that frequency, like while she was in the frequency of freedom, just nothing, she hadn't consumed anything for a while, you know, it had been a while. And this is what she said, Michelle. She said during the ceremony, she went somewhere and it was almost as if it was almost like a seductive. I don't know if seductive is the right
Mm-hmm.
word. I don't know, but it was almost like some being, some celestial being or another being. It was telling her it's okay. Like you can stay. You don't have to you don't have to go back. Like she had a feeling like, wait a minute, no, wait a minute. I need to go back. Like I'm here now. I understand I'm here, but I need to go back. And they were like, no, just stay with us. Like you don't have to, like forget that. Like it's okay. You know, that it's not nothing bad's gonna happen. It's just peace. You know, like the hereafter, they were basically like letting her know that the hereafter, you know, the great zone of the unknown, the transition is okay. It's gonna be seamless. It's gonna be painless. You're gonna be in bliss. It's peaceful out here. We're good out here. Don't. Why would you go back to all of that? Like, don't go back to all of that. Stay with us. Like, stay here. And she told me that she was afraid in that moment and she had to go back. And when she finally went back, she got up and it had been a while. Like she had been down for a while. They had been over her for a while and they didn't know if she was going to come back. She
Oh,
feels like she completely, her
interesting.
body completely astral projected. She was not in her body, you know? So I have, you know, questions for you
Interesting.
about, say again?
Respect to that experience. It sounds
Yeah,
really, yeah.
like the breath came back in the body. They didn't know if she was going to come back, you know?
Wow.
And so she can only recount her experience on the other side
Wow.
where there were these beings that were letting her know, hey, it's okay, just stay with us.
Wow.
You don't have to go back if you don't want to. You don't have to.
Wow.
But when she went back, her spirit, you know, like came back in the vessel and she's here now and she said, I will never do that again. You know,
Wow.
like there's more for me here to do, you know, my son, like my family, like I don't want to go there again. So can you speak to
I don't
that?
know if I can, brother. You know why? Like, and that's what a great humble response for me to be able to be like, bro, I don't know, because what you're describing is textbook like near death experience,
Right,
right?
right, right.
I never heard of that before in that kind of a context. I have heard of, you got to be real, and I got to be discerning about what I say, but you got to be really mature about what you say yes and no to in life and also in the visions. So you can, but it's the way she tests you. You can get distracted by certain things. So it's like, don't go down the sketchy road. Like, it's like the same thing as like we learned in New York, you know, don't go down that road. It looks weird. Stay on the path of the light. You know what I mean? So that's where I thought at the beginning of your journey story, it was like that, like, oh, come here, stay here. You know what I mean? But then you went like, no, but for real, she was like out and like they didn't know she was right. So that's different. I have no idea if it has to do. Now, I do want to talk about what you talked about with the fasting. Um, it's a plant spirit, it's a plant medicine, and the diet and what you consume is like uber important.
Mm.
So you're supposed to take in plants and prana and nutrients and energy and food that prepares your vessel to be able to metabolize, I think, the release of DMT and the chemicals and all of those things.
Mm.
So I do not know if those things were connected, that like she like kind of eclipsed her physical form because she didn't have enough like chemicals or magnesium or whatever the hell, you know, is in the body. I'm not a health coach, so I don't know, but you know, there's when you need to be strong, fuerte, you need to have like enough sustenance in order to like have that and it can be
Mm.
exhausting, you know, medicine ceremonies. So I wonder if those are connected.
Yeah, we actually have Luisa, you know, shout out to Luisa. She's from Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Oh,
She's in the
okay.
comments here, and Luisa says, I can relate. She's saying that the first experience can be scary. And we also have Chris, Brother Orbicron, saying just talking about the experience of the Yawas. So yeah, so Luisa is saying, yeah, she was just too sensitive. I can relate. The first experience can be scary
Yeah,
because Michelle, I don't know how many times you've communed with Mother Aya,
quite
but
a
you did.
bit.
But you said it was many times.
Yeah, 5 years I worked with a group pretty consistently on like every 3 months, the
Okay.
equinoxes and the solstice for multiple ceremonies.
So
Yeah.
you would work with the medicine every 3 months. There was a time where you did it every 3 months
Yeah.
on that level, and that with the scenario I illustrated, that never happened to you before. Wow,
No.
wow, that's
But the thing
amazing.
is, it's also
Okay,
metaphors.
okay.
So for whatever reason, and I don't know this person, I mean, you know me, the way that I coach and track patterns and everything that we talked about,
Mm,
uh, could be two things. Something that just dropped in is maybe she's not meant to do the ayahuasca
mm,
another time. And the ayahuasca giving her like a textbook near death experience is so she makes that decision that was like, I'm not going to do that again, you
yeah.
know? Just like me taking my break and having that very harsh ceremony. So I think there's a wisdom to the plant spirits and like the way that they work with us.
Hmm.
And then the second piece would be, oh, look, I got a thumbs up. And then the other piece would be, yeah, maybe we should just leave it at that. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's dropped
because
in.
you're right. Because she went on to do Bufo and had a beautiful
I
experience
haven't done
with
that
the
yet.
5-MeO
Yeah,
DMT. So that DMT experience was beautiful versus the other one, which
yeah.
had some darkness and some fear associated. So thank you
Oh,
for
that was what I was gonna say was that
okay.
the there there might be a gift in it too, meaning that for whatever reason, a near death textbook kind of experience for her might have a meaning that she carries with her for whether she does the medicine or not ever.
Mm,
It's something that like imprints your
mm,
consciousness, you know, and when you have those things, you carry them.
mm,
And so maybe for whatever reason later, maybe somebody else in her family has experienced that. Maybe she's experienced that in
mm,
another lifetime or something like there's some reason why that was the particular
mm,
thing. Or maybe she just actually had one, right? So it could
mm,
be a story and a metaphor that the medicine chose to work with her for a purposeful
mhm.
reason, or that actually just legit happened and she got scared and like whatever. And I think it's both, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's both and
It's
you
totally,
know both.
and
Yeah.
I got to tell you though, the I want to give so much like I was sad for a long time about how it's an imperfect
Mm,
system, meaning that I didn't understand how something so beautiful, because you can experience such deep healing in such a short amount of time, could also have gaps. but it's very much like, I think, our guides, you know, we have guides, we have protector spirits, and yet we still have suffering in this world, right? And so nothing that I've experienced on earth has been a perfect system. And I used to be upset about that. But the wisdom that I also see in the plants and the energies of different plants, like Bulbansana is known to open the heart. People diet on certain plants. They have a wisdom, they have a
Mm.
consciousness. People can sing, we can sing to the plants, we can sing to the gods and goddesses, we can sing Sanskrit, like the prayers, like the vibrational frequencies of this world and that work of medicine and song and prayer, and then calling that into us. I respect that more than anything. And the wisdom of the plants, it's a miracle. It surpasses my own wisdom and consciousness more than I've ever seen. And that's why I became attached and loved that circle that I had. And also, it's a big piece of myself in the way that I do my work and understand energy and the circuitry and how things weave together. And you can see it's like bringing tears to my eyes. I have the utmost reverence for what it is to be in true shamanic circle and true shamanic work, because when we sing the songs and when the person is attuned to a frequency of unconditional love, we bring in helpers and guides and spirits that are also attuned to that frequency of unconditional love. And I've never seen any other thing like that in my life than I have with plant medicine ceremonies. When they're done in the right way, it is the most holy experience that I have physically had in this life.
Wow, geez. Oh my goodness. Wow. Thank you, Michelle.
But
Thank you.
what's so sad is that those spaces where that amount of light, kind of what we talked about in the beginning when we're talking about the silence and like the hearing, those are not as common. And people are doing the medicine everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the refinement of angelic consciousness and those frequencies that can be accessed, it is not it is not as I mean, we don't live in Lumeria, you know what I mean? We live in like 2025 America. Like Lumeria, do you know what Lumeria is? Lumeria is supposed to be this like time, like you know how Atlantis is like a time where we like use technology and it all went wrong. Well, Lumeria is supposed to be this time where like we lived, it was like all Hawaii and dolphins and light and crystals and vibrations, and we could like think things into existence, and it was all magnificent, you know. And so it was like a utopia, like a golden age.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that that's the way that we were, you know, working with. But right now it's like a little bit we're getting so, but when we have the moments of it, that's what's so, yeah.
Yeah. These moments, you know, it's just coming back to that, like, as you're talking, you know, you remind me really of like bhakti yoga, you know, just like the love and devotion that you have for these practices, for the plants, for nature, for the mother, the divine mother, for life, for living. Like, it's that love and devotion. It just reminds me of like a
I
bhakti, you know?
am a bhakti. That's what Ram Dass's path is. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. This is beautiful. You know, the last thing that I would ask is
Mhm.
going along the lines, Michelle, of vibrational frequency and vocal alchemy. One of the things that I really would love to learn from you is, you know, throughout this conversation, you've been doing a lot of different mudras. You know, you put your hands in different mudras, you know, but there, you also talked about the power of mantras. And
Yeah.
mantra, I want to hear from you, you know, with your experience and just your understanding of what the voice is and what sound is and what vibration is and what energy is. What are we doing? What are we actually doing when somebody is, you know, maybe reciting the Saraswati mantra or the Mahalakshmi mantra, that, you know, these mantras that have been ancient, that have been recited for so many years, hundreds of years back by all these people, these sages, these, you know, everyone through the stages, through the ages, right? What are we doing when we recite these mantras? What is actually happening?
Well, you're doing it right now. You just did it. You just said it. They've been Ram Dass's words. You're tuning into the Omkar. One time he was meditating out there in India and he heard thousands of guys singing, and he went to his teacher and he was like, man, there's thousands of guys singing out there. And he's like, oh, you're tuning onto the Omkar. And it's, yeah, these chances have been sung through the ages from the sages. You know, you did it. You accessed it yourself, you know? Um, yeah, I don't, I like, I'm like wondering, I don't know my notes. I have my harmonium here.
Okay.
And, Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho, Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho, Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho, Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho, Mahadeva Shambho, Mahadeva Shambho, Mahadeva Shambho, Mahadeva Shambho, 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 Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho, Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho, Shambho, Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho, Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho, Shambho, Hare Om, Hare Om, Hare Om, Hare Om Tat Sat, Hare Om, Hare Om, Hare Om Tat Sat, Hare Om, Hare Om, Hare Om Tat Sat, Hare Om, Hare Om, Shambho, Hare Om, Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho, Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. So Shiva is the divine masculine. He is the eternal meditator and the yogi, and also the destroyer, the transformer. When we say Jaya, we are saying victory, victory to that energy. Shambho is like salutations, like may it be so, like go off and get it. And so when we are like Shambho, we're praising and we're calling in the aspect of us that is Shiva, that is connected to that infinite divine masculine intelligence. And so we become attuned with the frequency of God that speaks to, that is the multidimensionality in us. And we remember who we are through mantra. Mantra polishes the mirror of our existence, the noise of our existence, and it brings us back to the eternal nature of the self.
Wow. Mm. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you for inviting this
Yeah,
conversation. Seriously, thanks so much. You have given me a stage and a platform to share my true self, and I am honored and deeply grateful for the timing of the new year. And this has given me so much, and so I hope that we get to weave together this year, and it's a privilege. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Love and honor. Love and honor. Thank you so much. This has been nourishing. This has been so nourishing, so encouraging, and just Please, yes. Before you go, let people know. I know you mentioned
Yes. Yeah.
MichelleCoutinho.com. I just want people who have watched you, who have listened to you, who have witnessed you, and really imbibed, really drunken in and absorbed your essence, your presence. You know, if they want to get in tune with you, if they want to get in touch with you, what are the best places for them to go to receive your offerings, your services? Is it
Yeah.
MichelleCoutinho.com?
So my website, for those of you who are listening, is MichelleCoutinho.com, MichelleCoutinho.com. I do 3 months, it can be 6 weeks, but 3 month initiations with people who, some people are like, we want singing lessons. That's not exactly what I do, as you can tell from hanging out with me for an hour. I do soul initiations of people who are ready to take a deep, who want a mentor to teach them things that they may have always known but never really understood fully, and want to work with patterns in their lives and take the next step on their journey. I'm a wonderful teacher for that. So there's a button on my website, several buttons on the website, but one on the top in the menu bar that says apply to work with me one-on-one. If you fill that form out, it's basically like talk about your voice, but also talk about whatever's going on in your life. And just a couple questions, and then that'll go to my email box. I'll message you back, and then I'd like to meet you on a Zoom call, because I've been doing this for 5 years in this current form, and I know the archetypes of and also I can see people really well. So I know the archetype of the beings that I'm meant to serve and work with. And what's really important for me is that I feel that I can be of service to you, because the work won't work if I don't if the frequencies don't match, like I can't do anything, right? So it's like, so I need people who are like open. The people who are my favorite to work with are like soft, sensitive souls who, in like real talk, who have experienced abuse or like different, not that like that's a huge part of my work, but it tends to be that like really sensitive, empathic people have had the trauma of abuse in their past in different ways, or they got picked on or made fun of. But really, as a soul, they're like these multidimensional, exotic, beautiful beings that need courage and empowerment and to find themselves in a way that is like my bag. I work with young men, usually going through their Saturn return, who are wanting to heal their relationship to the feminine, or even older men I've worked with as well, who are really wanting that inner masculine feminine dance that needs repair. And I've worked with older women who are wanting to like access the goddess in them, because they may have like masculinized and become a CEO or done something that like has brought them into the power, but they miss that tender part of themselves. And those tend to be the archetypes of my clients. And so if you find yourself in that way, but even if you're not that specifically and you're curious about my work and my mentorship, I apparently will be doing a 6 month group, the program this year. So if you would like something like that, you can go to my website and sign up on my email list. There's a little pop-up that gives you a meditation. That way you can hear about all the things from me. And then obviously my Instagram is Michelle Infinity, and I'm going to be starting my podcast and my YouTube. The podcast is called The Healer's Journey, and I've only got like 3 episodes yet, because I did it before I was ready as a dare. My friend was like, oh, look at that. Yay, fireworks. I love that. My friend was like, put this out. And so I put out it, but I really want to work on this year. And then the other really cool offering that I have is my insight timer. So I meet with a group of 100 people, like sometimes it's like 100 and so people, every week, Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific. And I do also do it through my, I live stream. Now I'm going to be figuring out live streaming in different platforms at the same time, but on Insight Timer is a meditation app. My name on there is Michelle Infinity or Michelle Coutinho, and I have like multiple meditations you can download for free. And then every Friday at 9 a.m. I meet with a group of people, and I freaking go off for like 90 minutes, and we party, and we call in the guides and the spirits and all of that. So that's free and amazing. And I have a very cloistered, small monthly meditation circle that's got like 4 or 5 people in it, and that has to be like application based, because those are like the sweetest, most like angelic beings that I have in that group. So I really want to keep it exactly that tone and frequency.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
I answered
Beautiful.
everything. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for being in service.
Oh,
Thank you for being on purpose.
yeah.
Thank you.
My
Thank you.
honor.
So blessings, blessings, Michelle. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your moments, and just yeah, we'll keep being here now.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you so much, brother. Aho.
All right.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.
Bye
Bye.
bye.